everybody. We will be live here in a second, so we're ready to start whenever you guys are. Take your time.
Mr. Disler, are you? Can you unmute your mic for a second? Are you with us, Robin?
Yeah, it's showing that Robin is connected, but he is muted right now.
Right. Okay, well, hopefully, it looks like Mr. Green just joined us. Let's give it another minute or two, Eric. My screen so everybody can see the agenda. Okay, Mr. Durr, the floor is yours.
All right, welcome everyone. The first agenda item is the Peters Elementary elevator. This is just an informational type item. The Otis elevator people contacted me to let me know that our elevator at Peters is 28 years old, and we may need to, at some point, plan to make some upgrades to the elevator. Currently, the elevator has passed all of its inspections. The elevator inspector has been here, he's inspected it, and it's passed the 3-year pressure test. So at this point right now, it is functioning properly. There are no issues with it. The Otis people sent me 2 quotes. Basically, we would keep the elevator box itself and the shaft. We would put a new door on it. The estimate is $28,000 for a new door. And to replace the pump that actually lifts it up and down between the floors is $33,000. So the total of those 2 upgrades equals $61,000. Again, it is informational. It is not something that we're looking to do it right anytime soon, but we want to be prepared in the future. It gives us some numbers to work from. Anybody have any questions?
Greg, it's Donna. How often is it used?
I'm going to say, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm going to say a dozen times a day, maybe. I really don't have an answer, a good number for you.
That's fine. I didn't even know where it was. So.
Well, it travels only to the 2nd floor and back. That's it.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. If anyone has any further questions about that, feel free to ask or follow up with me later. The next agenda item, the current agreement that we have with Mascaro for recycling and trash. The contract expires June 30th of this year. And at this point right now, we did advertise and we were on our way to receiving trash bids from 3 contractors. However, with the onset of this shelter in place and the coronavirus, people couldn't get their bids put together. So at this point right now, it's canceled. I have reached out to Mascaro, since we are closed right now, that maybe possibly we could extend our agreement, and somehow, since they are only picking up trash right now at the middle school, middle school is the only place we're generating any trash. The rest of the buildings are not generating any trash. So maybe they'd be willing to work through this, extend our contract maybe till the end of this year or something, and maybe put the savings that we're, the cost that we're paying right now towards something over the summer. So right now I'm working through that. The next item is the Peters Elementary Fence Project. This is part of the PCCD grant that Dr. Stoker was able to get for the district. They started the installation on Monday. The contractor is ABE Fencing. They do not have access to the building. Currently, right now, the posts are all installed and concreted in the ground, and probably given a couple of days for the concrete to set up, they'll return, and maybe by Friday we'll finish up that fencing project out there.
Mr. Durr, did you say it'd be done by Friday?
I would think so. The company estimated 2 days worth of work. So in 1 day they dug all the holes, installed the post. I would think they'll be back and install the chain link in another day.
And they have received the waiver to do the work during the shutdown, right?
Yes, they have. They've been approved to work.
Thank you.
The next project is the field house door access. Part of the PCCD grant was to put a swipe station on the front of the main doors into the field house. It will allow us to have better control and monitor who is coming in and going from the field house. Vector Security was in yesterday, and they installed all the controls portion that will allow the door to electronically be opened and closed. There's a second phase of the project. A new panic bar needs to be installed, and we're waiting on that piece of equipment to come in. And the installer for that is AAA Lock, and they're a subcontractor. So that project's underway. I would say that it's halfway completed at this point. Any questions?
Same question. They have also received the waiver to do the work.
They have, yes.
Thank you.
The next item is the window safety film. That's part of the PCCD grant as well. That project has been put on hold at this point right now, mainly due to the fact that it would require access to the inside of the building by several people, and it would be work that would be completed in all the buildings. So at this point right now, we are holding off on moving forward with that project just due to the fact that it would require access to the building by quite a few people. They are able to work at this point right now, but until I think probably till at least the shelter in place is lifted, that they will not be performing any of that work. Any questions on that item? The last agenda item is the Aed purchase. That was also part of the PCCD grant. The AEDs that we purchased would allow us to put one on all of the floors in all of the buildings. So currently, for the most part, we only have one AED in each building. The grant allowed us to purchase 5 more. That will allow us to put another one in each of the buildings and 2 in the high school, 1 on the ground floor. There's currently 1 on the first floor, and it will allow us to put 1 on the second floor. We have received the AEDs. The second part of the purchase was cabinets for these AEDs, which should hopefully arrive next week. Are there any questions on the AEDs? If at any time anyone has any questions, please shoot me an email or ask Matt, and he'll forward it to me, and we'll get back to you with some answers.
Thank you, Mr. Durr. I think that was really a good report, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, it looks like Greg, thank you, good job. And it looks like we will now transition over to Mr. Hill for the technology portion of the agenda.
Okay, for the technology, first of all, before I start, I just wanted to say how much of a pleasure it was to work with everybody in our district, from the principals, the administrators, our tech staff, our webmasters, even working with the teachers during all this. Everybody has been so supportive. I haven't heard any complaints from anybody. If we asked them, hey, we need to do this, we need to do that, it's always been, okay, what do you need me to do? That's what I've heard from everybody from the top down. And I just want to say thank you from our department, because we had a big job here and we couldn't have done it without the help of everybody, and everybody's been phenomenal. So I just wanted to thank everybody in the district for being cooperative and supportive. So the first thing I want to go over is the distribution of Chromebooks and laptops. What we did was we're fortunate in our district because we already have enough devices to cover all of our students. We have a one-to-one at the high school. We have a one-to-one at the middle school. We don't have a quote-unquote one-to-one necessarily at the other schools, but it is we do have enough devices to cover all of our students. So what we did is we all chipped in and we gave every student the opportunity to take home a device if they needed one. And I wanted to let you know the numbers of participants that we have for all the schools. So at Peters Elementary, we had 235 students request a Chromebook that took them home, and that is about 64% of our population at Peters. At Slatington Elementary, we had 382 that requested to take them home and came and picked them up. That is 78% of our student population. At the middle school, we already had a one-to-one program there. Before this, we probably had it was around 60% of the students took the laptops home or the Chromebooks home on a regular basis. Right now, we had 211 take them home. So that's about 89% of our students took a device home for use at home, which I think is phenomenal. At the high school, also, we have a one-to-one at the high school. Again, all students were allowed to take home a laptop. There we had it was a 50, almost 60% rate, just like it was very similar to the middle school. Right now, we had 427 students take them home, and that's about a 90% of our population, of our student population, took home laptops for use during this time. So I just want to open it up. Does anybody have any questions about the distribution of Chromebooks or laptops?
I don't have a question about the distribution, but I do have a question about participation, especially in the elementary school. Does anybody know any percentages of how many students are actually doing the online assignments?
Yes. Is this Mr. Kern?
Yes, it is.
Hi, Mr. Kern. How are you?
I'm fine.
Good. So about an hour ago, I sent a letter out to the community, kind of giving an update on our first 3 days of planned instruction. And the participation rates are Peters Elementary, believe it or not, was 98%. Slatington Elementary was 95%. Middle school was 83%, and the high school was 80%. Now we're still fine tuning those numbers because some of the teachers allowed until midnight tonight for students to complete the work, which we then translate into attendance.
Gotcha. Okay.
I mean, I'm personally very pleased with the first 3 days of participation / attendance rates, and I expect it to go up from here. Well,
I agree.
At least at the middle school and high school, the elementary buildings are just about maxed out. Keep in mind that at all building levels, we do have some families that are participating via like paper packet activities because of their unique circumstances.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll add those percentages into the agenda here, so I can a little bit later.
Okay, and then just to go over a little bit of the distance learning options, these are the primary programs that teachers are using per grade level. High school, they're primarily using Canvas, Google Classroom, and then for the distance learning part, they're doing Google Meet, and some of our teachers are using Zoom. Also at the middle school, they are primarily using Google Classroom. Again, they're using Google Meet and Zoom to meet with the students. And at the elementary level, I'm going to lump them into one. They're using some of the teachers, most of the teachers using Google Classroom. They're also using Class Dojo to communicate through email with students and parents. And then they are again using Google Meet. Most of them are using Google Meet, and there's a few using Zoom. And I just wanted to clarify, there was some issues with Zoom the last few weeks. There was a lot of public security holes, things like that. Before the teachers used Zoom, we did send an email out over the weekend, and I asked them to make sure that they went on and updated their Zoom before they would use it, because a lot of those security holes were recently patched. And they also put a lot of effort into stopping anything as they call Zoom bombing. And to my knowledge, Anybody correct me if you heard otherwise, but I haven't heard any issues within our district of any type of issues with Zoom. So we are still allowing the teachers to use Zoom. We feel Zoom took the correct steps this past week, and to my knowledge, we haven't had any issues. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Mr. Hill, when we transition into the next committee meeting, can you please go back and enter the platforms you just mentioned for elementary in this agenda? I think I missed those.
Yes, I can do that for you. Yep, not a problem.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, the next topic I wanted to talk about was the remote tech support. First of all, what we did is we have a continuity of education FAQ on our website. So what we did is we listed all sources of contact on that continuity of education FAQ. That's a source that parents are using. So what parents are told to do if they have a problem or students have a problem, first they go to our NLSD.org website, and there is a tech support form on there that students or teachers can submit a tech support request to us. That comes to all the technicians and myself. The other thing is we are asking them to email us at support@nlsd.org, and we get a lot of support. We actually get supports both ways. We're probably getting more email at this point than the tech form. We do get both. And then what we do, we also provide a helpline. Let's say they can't get on their computer. They can dial, we do have a helpline. They can dial in, and that phone number is published. And we aren't manning the phones, but what we do is if we get a message, it immediately gets emailed to our technology group. All of us get the email. We can listen to the message, and we can get right back to that person. So we do have multiple forms of contact. And then the final way we receive support requests we are receiving support from the NLSD for You email. That's kind of like a catch-all. And we have received a few from there too. If people don't know how to get in touch with us, they've been going to the website and seeing the NLSD for You email. And that's been a fantastic way because we've been getting some requests through there. So we are doing remote support. What we're doing is we are providing tech support all week long. But what we're doing is we're allowing exchanges or pickup of devices. We are going to be doing that Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We are coordinating it at the middle school with the grab and go. So if somebody has to come in, if it's a problem we can't resolve remotely, what we do is we can have them come in and do an exchange. Again, most of our support has been done through email so far. We have made a few phone calls. Typically we'll call a parent. We do have remote assistance on the laptops. We haven't done much of that. If we do remote assistance, what we will do is we call and get verbal consent before we remote onto a computer. Again, that hasn't happened too often. So far, we've been able to get most of them. We've been able to solve most of them through email and phone calls. And then again, the final thing is we can do an exchange Monday, Wednesday, and Friday by appointment only. We can meet people outside of hours too, but we're trying to get them into coming during the time when they would come for the meals to limit the contact that people are out and about. So does anybody have any questions about how we are providing support?
If there's no questions, I'd just like to make a comment on this. Eric started his section by complimenting all the other employees in the district and the work that they're doing. Much like our food services department, I cannot say enough about our technology department right now. They are truly going above and beyond. And, as issues arise, typically they resolve them within 24 hours or less. They are fully committed to making our e-learning successful, and they're doing a great job. So, Mr. Hill, and to your team, thank you very much.
This is Gary, since you brought that up, and I know I addressed the same thing to the meeting on Monday night, and I don't want to repeat myself altogether, but I do want to say to you, Eric, you've done a fantastic job. We hired the right guy. We're glad you're with us, and we hope you stay with us a long time. And thank you so very much.
You're welcome. I'm part of a great team here, and I'm happy to be part of this team. This has been a fantastic team to work with. So I really appreciate working with this whole team. Okay, so our next thing is we're going to talk about one-to-one laptop insurance. This is kind of something I'm going to throw out there for discussion we're looking at for next year. We received guidance through legal guidance, and what they are advising schools to do is the way most schools work around our area is currently students for one-to-one laptops, they are allowed to take home their laptops if they pay insurance. Okay, typically if a student doesn't pay insurance, what school districts have done in this area is students have to leave their laptop on campus. We've been advised through legal counsel that if students are required to complete work at home with the technology that they're being assigned, okay, and that's the big if there. If they are required to complete work at home, we legally should be letting all students take laptops home. So this would be anybody in a one-to-one that's required to do work. We should be letting them take laptops home whether they pay assurance or not. So this is something we want to bring up for next year that we are considering doing. With that being said, we can still offer insurance, and what we can do with the insurance is we can provide a financial incentive to encourage families to purchase insurance. So what I would propose we do is we still have a insurance premium similar to what we have this year, but what we would do, and it's very similar to what we already have, it wouldn't really change too much, but what we do is we would have a reduced cost for students that would, let's say they have a laptop, they break their screen. If they would buy insurance, it might only cost them $75 to repair it. If you didn't buy insurance, it would now cost you $200 to repair the screen. So we can provide a financial incentive there for students to buy insurance. And that structure would be very similar to what we have already. Another thing we would do next year is I still think we would do the reduced cost for free and reduce students. I think that's a good program that we have going where we basically give students who are free lunch status students get free insurance. They don't have to pay for the insurance. Also, students that are reduced lunch students, they get half price off of the insurance premium. Now, some of the concerns about this is going forward, if people take devices home and they don't pay the insurance, if they break the device, or let's say they have a stolen device, they don't bring it back, we have to then try to get the money from them. So some of the things we need to talk about, I guess, is what kind of recourse do we have if students don't pay their bill? Is there any punishments we can do? Is there, what kind of punishments? And I would guess that would be similar to any other non-payment. Like, what if they lose a book? What if they don't pay cafeteria bills? Things like that would have to be fall under those lines. So anyway, I'm just kind of throwing it out there. Does anybody have any comments about this? Any suggestions?
This is Gary. We really need to research all of that. I mean, I understand where you're coming from. My concern, though, is when we're talking about kids who are on reduced lunches and so forth, and they get them free, if something happens, what is our really recourse into secure that money for that? I mean, they're not going to pay it. And if they don't, do we need to get a lawyer in this kind of thing? And where do we want to go? So what I am saying is I agree with all you're saying. I think we need to research it really thoroughly and maybe even ask our legal counsel somewhat. We certainly don't do anything illegal as far as the state goes and what their recommendations are. But I'm just not sure how that will work out. So I think it's going to need a lot of thought.
If I might add something to that, there used to be the old recourse that, we're not gonna give you your end of the year report card if you don't pay your monies, and that's illegal. However, anything that is school sponsored, such as even the graduation ceremonies, if a kid is not up to date on all of their obligations by their senior year, because the school district is paying for a graduation ceremony, it has nothing to do with graduation. They still would graduate, get their diploma, but they wouldn't be able to participate in those types of things. I know that's been done in the past. Again, we need legal counsel to make sure that's legal, but that is an option.
Yeah, and I think the key here is I think we need to discuss this a little further. As far as the big thing is, if the students are required to do the work at home, and I think that's something we need to discuss maybe a little further with the principals. That's kind of how most of the schools have gotten by that issue so far. The students are given other ways to do the work in school. But as technology becomes more and more integral part of their day, I can tell you teachers are expecting more and more of the students, and that's kind of why we want to talk about this now. And what I plan on doing is I didn't want to. We have a lot to talk about, so I wanted to throw it out there kind of so everybody could start thinking about this. And in the next committee meeting or two, I will also propose I'll show you what I'm thinking about for insurance. I have I already have a rough draft kind of brought up. So I'll bring that up at the next committee meeting and we can kind of discuss a little further. So just kind of give everybody a little time to think about it for the next committee meeting, and we can come up with some ideas and see if we want to move forward with this or not.
Okay, any other questions or comments on the one-to-one laptop insurance issue? Okay, hearing none, we will go to the next topic, Khajiits.
Okay, we're going to discuss Khajiits, and Mr. Link's going to bring up the quote here. Just to let you know what a Khajiit is, first of all, we bought 10 of these devices this past year. What a Khajiit is it's a portable hotspot for students. It's for students that don't have internet access at home. Basically, what we have is we have a Verizon cellular service on our Khajiits, and what they do is the students take these home and they connect their laptop or their Chromebook to this device, and it gives them internet access at home. We currently have 10 of these Khajiits that we purchased this last year. So what we did when all this happened was we really didn't have a count of how many students have internet or not. So the first thing we did was a couple of our local ISPs have special programs going on right now where they're giving families free 60 days of internet. The problem with that is the one provider after the 60 days, the family can cancel, but if you don't cancel, you start getting charged. The other providers, it's 60 days, and then they have the option to renew as well. So the only problem there is after 60 days, a lot of these families are going to be back in the same boat where they may not have internet. So what we did was we did a community outreach survey, a phone survey. Obviously, we're dealing with people that may not have internet. So we did a phone survey through our community outreach. And I also polled the teachers as well. And I asked teachers to let me know, principals and teachers, if they know of any students who don't have internet, because they've been obviously communicating with their students. What we have is we came up with a list of 38 students that we identified that do not have internet service. Now we only have 10 of these Khajiits now. And I can tell you as of today, all 10 of them are signed out. Up until today, we still had 3 left, but today we had 3 more requests for them today. And I anticipate as we move forward, we're going to get more of these requests. So if we look at the quote, I got a quote from Khajiit for more of these. And this is more, if you guys remember from the committee in the past, we talked about this, it was a lot less. That's because they had special deals going on. They basically gave us the Khajiits for free. Now they're back to their normal prices. Obviously, they're in high demand right now. So the quote is, and this is a little beefed up plan too. The last plan we had was 500 megabytes because our philosophy there was our students were only using them at home. Typically, they were in school during the day using our Wi-Fi, and they only needed them at home. So we had a plan that was a lot less. So they only had a 500 megabyte per day plan. This plan is what they recommend for a whole day use, which is 2 gigabytes. This would be for 12 months of service, and the list price is $332 each. So you're looking at close to $10,000. Plus there's a telecom admin fee, which you can't get around, $446. So the entire quote's $10,475.88 for 30 more of these Khajiits. That would put us at 40 Khajiits and would cover what we know in our district that don't have internet service at this point. And I don't know if Mr. Link, if you want to talk a little bit about the possible grants or.
Sure. So currently, Dr. Stoker and Mr. Hill have been working on what is called the CEEG grant, Continuity, Equity, and Education grant. And the emphasis on that is technology to help close the connectivity gap. So if you look just at our overall student population, we would not qualify, but they allow us to look into what's now called historically underperforming groups, or kind of like subgroups, which is like English language learners, homeless students, students with special needs, foster children. And if we reach certain percentages within those groups of students that do not have connectivity, and I believe the lowest threshold is 5% in one of those groups, then we can leverage that disparity to qualify for some grant money to bring in some of these devices. Right now, it looks like we qualify under, I want to say, English language learners and children that are experiencing homeless, which can get us to the first $5,000 threshold. And then for every child above that, it's like another $50. So when we did the math, it looks like we're coming in at we would qualify for $5,850. That's through a state-funded grant. We're also looking further through the CARES Relief Act from the federal government. Right now, our calculations show us that we're coming in, I believe, just shy of $300,000, and a lot of that can be used for continuity of education. However, there's no clear guidance in that disbursement of money yet. So we're trying to work through our state agencies to see what exactly we would get, what we can use it for, and when we would get it. So those are some possible funding streams for these Khajiits to help our families our students that do not have connectivity gain connectivity.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions about the Khajiits?
If we can solidify some of that funding, would the board members on the committee be in support of us moving forward with the purchase of the Khajiits?
This is Donna. I say yes.
Okay.
This is Bob. I don't think we have a choice. I agree. Yes.
Mr. Green or Mr. Fedorcha?
I agree. This was Gary. Is Mr. Disler still on?
It says that he's on, and it says that he's unmuted. Mr. Disler, can you hear us?
Okay.
Mr. Green, I don't know if you responded. It looks like your mic is muted.
How's that? Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear.
Okay, good. Yeah, I would say, of course, consider the grants that you can get, but if not, I would certainly move forward and get those extra 30 or whatever it was you were looking for. Sure. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Green. The other board members, if we are not successful getting the grants, would you also support us moving forward with the purchase?
Yes. But this is Bob. Yes. We have no choice.
Okay.
I'm obviously a yes on that also. So yes.
This is Donna. A yes also.
Gary, yes.
Okay. Thank you all for your support, especially to our students that need it most in this scenario. We will, of course, exhaust all options with getting the grant money prior to moving forward with the purchase.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. I agree. I think I think it'd be a great service for our students. And who knows how long this is going to go on. So there may be more need for that down the road. So I appreciate everybody supporting that. That's all I have for now.
Okay, I'm just going to type a couple notes in here. If anybody needs to take a break before we transition to the Finance Committee, now would be a good time. I'm going to finish up the notes under Khajiit's.
This is Gary. Robin, if you're still on your phone, I'm not sure what the problem is, but why don't you hang up for a minute or two and let me call you?
Thank you, Mr. Fedorchak.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and pause the stream for a few minutes while we take a few-minute break.
Okay, Eric and Steven, are we ready on your end?
Yep, we're ready to go.
Okay. Mrs. Culp, as chairperson, can you begin the Finance Committee meeting?
I'm sorry, I had to take it off mute. Mrs. Bonnet, could you do the cafeteria update, please?
Is that out echoing for everybody?
Yeah, if everyone except Sue can mute your microphones.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to echo. Oh wow. I want to echo what Eric said about Matt. It's echoing so bad.
Whoever's calling in by phone is going to have to mute.
Okay. Is that good? Okay. I wanted to echo the same thing that Eric said, that the food service department, maintenance, custodian, everybody that's assisted us, administration who has helped hand out the meals, have just been incredible. I can't thank enough. We've gotten so many thank yous from parents on how needed this is. Honestly, we're going into week 5. We've had one complaint that there was a peanut butter and jelly sandwich missing, and actually that was just an extra, so that's all good. But everybody has just been an amazing source of strength to all of us to, push ahead. And I heard a couple of my people saying today, this is really incredible to see us all working together like this. So I called Matt the other day to say I am just incredibly proud to be a part of Northern Lehigh right now. I really am. With that being said, we have had some incredible donations for the Backpack Buddy program, which we are continuing through this process. We had a $1,000 donation from the Education Foundation. In addition to that, we had a single family that called and wanted to make a donation, and we received his check, which was also for $1,000. So that was incredible. In addition to that, the church has been fundraising for us for the same cause, and they have gotten a total of $5,000 donations. So it looks like we're really in good shape. We were able to go with Greg's cruise assistant this week and pick up another drop for our Backpack Buddies. So today our Backpack Buddies received their meals for the weekend in addition to their 3 meals to get them through the rest of this week. So we're really happy with that. From the first day that we started this, which I think we're one of the first to start up, which was the Tuesday, we had about 280 people that came through the drive-through. And today we hit an all-time record, which was 587 people. It was incredible because it was like whisper down the alley, 10 more, 12 more, that sort of thing. But it came through. Parents were so appreciative. The staff was just incredible. We were able to make it happen, and I'm thrilled with that. For week 1, we averaged about 352 people. Week 2, about 498. Week 3, 475, and week 4, 536. We were able to.
Sue, did you say 584 for today?
587, Matt.
Thank you.
587. So we entered our first claim so we can start getting some revenue in. But in addition to that, I found, actually it was on Facebook, No Kids Go Hungry grant that I applied to, and I've been granted permission to fill out the information for that. In addition, Matt had sent some information to me today regarding another grant. So we're going to go for that as well, to help cover some of our expenses while we're going through this time. But in addition, we have a lot of paperwork that's going through the state, but I do my reimbursables to Sherry on a weekly basis, and that's based on the people that we've fed, the amount of money that we've spent on food and that sort of thing, labor costs, so they can see what type of a loss, because there may be a potential reimbursement with that as well, and that's through the state. So I guess that's it. We're hanging in there, man, and I'm just so proud of the staff I have, and so proud of everybody that's just stepped up to the plate. So it's all good.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Can I just jump in just for a second? Susie has been giving me her numbers, and what we did is we took a base in October and we looked at all of her expenses in October versus all of her revenues in October, and then offset it and said, what's the amount of money that she's losing there, because we're not selling lunches on a daily basis to an entire school district. It worked out to be, she had like a $9,000 profit that month. So I divided that by the number of days that she was in school that month, and it worked out to an X dollar amount for a day. So then I attribute that then to each day that she's doing this program, that she needs to be making that amount of money. So in essence, when it all works out, Susie is actually short about $24,000 already between what she's losing in revenues versus what she's getting from the state and stuff. So hopefully with applying through PEMA, we can get some of this back for her to recoup.
Thanks, Sherry.
Sue, congratulations to you and your team. You've all been phenomenal, and your leadership has been just absolutely superb through all of this. You're right. I think we were maybe the first, or at least the top 3, to get the system up and running. This is to support our community's children. And it's just been getting more and better every day. So congratulations to you and your team. And thank you.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate that.
Listen, Gary, and I want to echo that on behalf, I think, of the entire school board. You guys and they need kudos every day because of the wonderful job they're doing. I stopped up a few times, and they are so chippy and happy, and I swear nothing was going wrong. And thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I've had the opportunity to speak with many of the food service directors in the Lehigh Valley who went up after us and are struggling with some things. And that's what I had to call Matt one day and just say, you know what, man, we are so lucky. We have such an incredible crew. You know, there's some people not willing to come in and that sort of thing. And we've just been so blessed.
Absolutely. Okay, Sue, thanks again. I hope you get some rest over to a little bit of a break here. You absolutely deserve it. And we're going to transition to Mrs. France now to talk about PSBA charter school resolution. And I will put that resolution on the screen and let her discuss it.
On Monday night's agenda, the resolution will be on for the board's approval. It's asking for fair funding for charter schools. Currently, when Northern Lehigh bills another district for services, it's based on our expenditures, so everyone is billed the same amount for the same services. Charter school funding is based on each individual school's expenditures, which means Northwestern is not paying the same for the same education from a charter school than we are. Allentown is paying a different amount. The idea is to get equity across the board in that, so that there's no cuts down on the profit experienced by the charter schools, and just makes it a level playing field so that everybody's paying the same, and to reduce costs overall. So that will be on Monday night. If you can take time before Monday to read over the resolution. If you have any questions, you can feel free to call me. or email me with your questions, and I'll get the answers back to you before Monday.
And please don't forget that the school board meeting is actually Tuesday evening.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tuesday.
Oh, that's okay. Are there any immediate questions or comments on the proposed resolution? Okay, hearing none. Rhonda, can you discuss Act 80 day application?
Yes, for those of you that aren't familiar, when we get an Act 80 waiver, it allows us to not attend school for the 180 days as long as we meet the number of instructional hours. A little bit different this year in that the state has already said that they are not going to make us make any of these days up. There is going to be new forms in the works, which no one has seen yet, so we're not quite sure how that's all going to work out. So the board agenda item that's on Tuesday's agenda is just in case, because before we can apply for Act 80 days, we must get the board's approval. And because things are changing hour by hour, day by day, if we get your approval Tuesday night, if it becomes necessary for us to apply for any kind of time relief, we already have your approval. So that's the reason for the Act 80 day. It may not be necessary. At this point, it doesn't look like it will be. However, we don't want to get caught on the short end of it because time will be an issue. And that's located under curriculum and instruction. It's item C on Tuesday's agenda. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Mrs. Franz. Mrs. Molitoris, could you describe to the committee how business operations have been conducted during the mandated school closures?
Sure. So we actually have been obviously still functioning because the bills need to be paid and payroll needs to happen. So our staff has pretty much been working from home. I have been the mail carrier now. I pick up the mail 3 days a week and I separate it, and bills that need to get paid, I take over to Nancy's house so that she can pay them. They were both in yesterday because we had to do a board check run. They do not have the capability of printing reports and stuff at home. Plus, I really didn't know if I wanted them to take checks to their house anyway. So I wanted to keep that in-house yet for just security purposes. So they both came in yesterday. Heather had a payroll to process and Nancy had to do our board check run. And we actually did prove the end of the month. So you will not see anything different on Tuesday night's board agenda than what you would normally see from the business office as it relates to the school district bills, payrolls being paid, and our monthly balance sheets. So we are functioning as well as we can in this situation and moving around day by day as we can, and we're learning as we go along like everybody else. So that's it. Any questions on anything that anybody might have a question about the business office? All right, then I'll move into COVID-19 and possible impacts on the budget for 2021. So what we know and what we don't know. We don't know a lot and we don't know a lot. We know a lot, we don't know a lot. Let's put it that way. So we know that unemployment is going to be an issue. Unemployment and employment rates affect a lot of the stuff that happens throughout a school district. It has to do with our Act 1 indexes based on unemployment or unemployment rates. We have our real estate collections that if people are in unemployed might have an issue paying real estate taxes, EIT taxes. If you're on unemployment, you're not paying into EIT taxes. So delinquent taxes could be an issue on next year's budget. So there's a lot of things that are kind of out there that we know are going to be an issue, probably, but we really don't know at this point how much of an issue. We are concerned to a point about the revenue side of the budget coming in next year. Also with the fact that You have the state who currently is not collecting their revenues at their projected amounts, which could then also hurt our basic ed subsidy, special education subsidy, transportation subsidy. So there's a lot of ifs coming out of this year's budget. The transportation that I just spoke about, we have been in contact, as we wrote in the update for Friday, that we have contacted our transportation provider about negotiating a contract with him, renegotiating our contract for the remainder of this year in order to help keep our subsidy intact for next year. In doing that, we still could see a potential of saving a little bit of money on our side because we're not going to pay the full transportation budget, but we're still in the conversations with him. We're waiting to hear back from him. I think we were probably one of the first companies that he talked to, and I believe we were one of the first school districts in this area that took him on. So I'm hoping he remembers that, and he's willing to sharpen his pencil a little bit and give us a really good number. So we'll find out. We were pretty transparent with them as they were pretty transparent with us. We want to see what we are getting, what he's paying his employees, and they kind of wanted to know what we're receiving in revenue subsidy. And I could clearly show him what my loss was, and that, you know, my goal is to not have that loss next year, but not pay you full boat this year because you're not having wear and tear on your buses and that kind of stuff. So we're still in works with him, and hopefully we hope to hear something by the end of the week, but we have not heard back from him yet at this point in time. So of course, the other thing that we can talk about, which can be a hit, is I have been aggressively investing the last couple of years, and obviously you know what our interest rates are for investing right now. Last year, I was at like a 2.77% on treasury bills. Now you can't even touch treasury bills. They're in the negative. And best CD I could get recently, I was quoted, was a 0.80. So we are at very, very low interest rates as well, which is where I boosted up some of our revenues the last couple of years because of the investing. We were getting close to $300,000 a year in investing. So just to give you some insights on what we're going to probably end up seeing with the budget coming up in May. On the flip side of things, they did say, we've heard that homestead, farmstead will probably pretty much stay intact. They said there has been a lot of cushion in that area, so they feel that it's probably going to be intact. They've been in contact with PDE to make sure that that is true, but they didn't foresee us at this point taking a hit on it for this year. But my thing is they're closed right now, so if anything, it could be that 21-22 school year where we could see a hit on a lot of these things. I think the basic ed subsidy, our Act 1 index has been set for this year. They're not going to go back and change that. Our PCERS amount is set for this year. They're not going to go back and change that. I think we're pretty going to stay status quo with a lot of that stuff this year. It's the impact that's going to have the following year. I think we're going to muddle through next year, but I think we're going to feel the effects of what's going on now in the 21-22 school year. Anybody have any questions?
Sherry, do you want to talk at all about the discussions going on at the legislative level concerning property tax freezes?
Yes, I can do that. Sure. So there has been talk at the state level. There's a couple of representatives who are wanting to do a tax freeze. The last thing we had heard was that is now currently on hold. It did not make it to the floor in the one House bill yesterday. They do not think it is a dead issue, though. They feel that they think that school districts are having a windfall right now because of all of the money that we're saving. But we're not really saving money because we're paying all of our salaries. We still have to pay all of our charter schools. We are still paying for all of our daily functions, electricity, oil, fuel, whatever we need. We're still paying a lot of those bills yet. So I think a lot of them are thinking that we have this huge windfall of money just because the buildings, but that's not most of our budget. We all know that about 78% or 68% of our budget is salaries and benefits, and that has not taken a hit. We are paying everybody. So with that being the case, what they're thinking if we're seeing in a windfall, we're not seeing in a windfall.
I actually drafted a letter to Representative Mako and Senator Brown, just kind of explaining the facts that, we are, like Mrs. Molitoris just explained, that we are not saving money at the rates they may believe. And I just wanted to make sure that they base their decisions on factual information.
A PSBA and PASBO and PSEA are all kind of pushing for, they all understand, and we all understand, that there could be an issue when it comes to real estate tax payment next year. We're not saying that we don't think there's going to be an issue, but they're trying to figure out a way that might be more beneficial to the taxpayers versus the hurt that a school district would encounter if we totally did a whole tax freeze and no taxes. There's talk out there that they want to extend the discount period by 1 month and extend the face period by 1 month. In doing that, our discount period would be till the end of September, and then our face period would be till the end of November, and then they'd only get 1 month to pay it in penalty, which would be the month of December. It could be a windfall for some people. It gives them 3 months to pay in delinquent state versus 2, so it could give them a little bit more time. It'll be a minimal hit to us, if anything, and most school districts feel that way, and that this is a much better solution on our end, we feel, than on the end of a property tax freeze. So that is what they're pushing for.
Any questions or comments on that topic?
I just have it's the other Matt. I just have a question, Sherry. Is there any discussion about changing the budget timelines, or are we still going to have to go with the June 30th 30-day pre-approval, blah blah blah, all that other stuff? Is that all still pretty much the same?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is, Matt. They have not talked about that yet. There has been, they've been pushing for it. They've been telling them, with everything being so up in the air, they wanted to know that, but they're not getting any movement from the state saying that they're going to move those timelines or anything. So
thank you.
You're welcome.
I think, one of the other concerns out there is that if the state legislator passes that legislation, really what it's doing, it's removing local control from our school boards. Mm-hmm. And if anything, if any district needs to make that decision or wants to make that decision, I believe it should be the decision of that school board, not some state level legislator. So I hope they do not pass it and they leave the decision at the local level. Any other questions or comments on any of the fallout as far as budgetary operations go?
No, this is Gary. We just got to stay on top of this. I mean, as far as where we need to go, but basically the state is tying our hands all around.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Yep, wholeheartedly.
Sherry or Rhonda, do you have anything else under your part of the agenda?
Yeah, the only other thing I wanted to talk about is, I know one of the, probably I want to say one of the hot issues the last couple of months that we've been talking about in buildings and grounds and finance has been the Peters elementary school equipment out there. So not knowing where we're going to shake out at budget time. This is a project that we feel can kind of maybe put a little bit on hold right now until we see where we end up with revenues and stuff next year. We did end up with 4 bids. They came in anywhere between 50 and 77,000. So just in light of everything that's going on, I mean, the decision to move forward with that was before COVID-19 hit. So our recommendation right now is to kind of just get the board's approval that, yeah, we feel this is something we need to move on, but it may not be needed to be moved on as quickly as we wanted to move on it because of the implications that we're facing with COVID-19. Any questions on that?
Do the board members on the committee kind of support us hitting pause on that project?
Yes, Gary.
Yeah, this is Bob.
Go ahead, Bob.
I'm sorry, that's good, I agree.
Make it 3.
Okay, thank you all. Sherry and Rhonda, any other topics you'd like to discuss?
No, I think just a comment on Gary wanting us to stay on top of this. Gary, Sherry and I have talked to our counterparts more in the last 2 weeks than we probably have in the last 4 years. As far as things going on, we're being educated as to what everyone else is doing. So the ideas are out there. Just so you know, we are staying on top of this as we possibly can.
Yeah.
I know you always do, and thank you for doing that.
Yeah, we have Zoom sessions every week with Lehigh Valley ASBO, and then one again with all of our business managers within our IU. So we're constantly, everybody's bouncing ideas off each other. So see where it gets us.
Okay, does anybody else have anything for the good of the committee?
The only thing I would like to say is thank you to everybody for coming on. Thank you, staff, for doing everything you do, and may everyone have a very enjoyable, hopefully we all can do that, a Easter and Passover. And most of all, everybody, please stay healthy.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
Fedorch.
everyone for the time and effort. I really appreciate it. I know the community does as well.
We're having a virtual egg hunt at our house, so I'm not quite sure what that is, but that's what we're doing.
That sounds really creative. Love that idea.
I have no idea. All I know is it's happening at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's all I know.
That's wonderful.
That's great.
Well, thank you, everyone. It was good seeing you virtually or hearing you tonight. I hope you all have a great weekend. Enjoy the holiday. And like Mr. Fedorch said, stay well.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thanks, everybody.